saying diagnoses?
Because it's plural, right? Diagnosis is one.
Oh, okay.
Right?
You could just switch it up. Like, say the things you've been diagnosed with.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay. Today we're going to talk about the 4 conditions that Logan has been diagnosed with that have the most effect on his day-to-day life. I apologize in advance, y'all, if I say a million times. I have stopped and started this video multiple times because I keep saying so maybe the more that I get back into recording live videos and not doing voiceovers, maybe a few videos down the road, I won't say so excuse me, I won't say so much. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. I'm gonna call it HIE for short because I cannot keep saying it. Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. So, in layman's term, when Logan had his 6th episode, he lost oxygen to his brain. So he did not get enough oxygen to his brain, and as a result, he has hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, HIE. So that is obviously his main condition because the brain, his lack of oxygen to his brain affected everything else and kind of resulted in the other diagnoses that we are going to talk about. So we talked about HIE and how that is a result of him not breathing and not having the flow of oxygen or blood flow to his brain. So the next, I guess I would say the next in line, I would say they're equally as important. Or they affect him about the same. The next condition we're going to talk about is cerebral palsy. So I would say that Logan's chronic respiratory failure is what they labeled it, and his cerebral palsy affects him the same amount. They're equal in how they affect his day-to-day life. So we'll just start with the cerebral palsy. Brain injury, the way his brain was affected from the lack of oxygen, he has HIE, and that results in his CP diagnosis as well, which he can't move. He can move, so let me not say that he can't move, but the way that he moves is affected. So he can lift his legs, he can move his arms, he can move his head. He has weakness in all of those areas. He does not have any head control, so therefore, he can't sit up on his own. He does not have any trunk control. So all those muscles are affected by his CP, and it makes it very difficult for him to move. Now, when you're touching his face and he don't want his face touched, he gonna move his head. If you are messing with his leg and he don't want you to, he's gonna move his leg. Is he gonna move it the same way that my other boys or any other neurotypical child who doesn't have CP is gonna move? No, because he has CP. We talked about HIE, hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. We talked about cerebral palsy. And so the next thing we're going to go into now is his chronic respiratory failure, which is the whole reason he has a trait. So when he was first admitted to the hospital, his CO2 was very high. I want to say, if I remember correctly, it was in the 70s, when the normal range is between 30s and 40s. So he was very acidic, is what they called it. The amount of CO2 in his blood was just very high and abnormal. So he was intubated and put on the hospital bed to help him regulate his oxygen and carbon dioxide, which essentially breathes for him. So because of his brain injury, right, his brain doesn't remember how to breathe, how to tell himself to breathe. Now, personally, Logan can breathe on his own for a certain amount of time. So there are a lot of children with chronic respiratory, or people, I'm not going to speak about people, but I know I follow a lot of children with chronic respiratory failure or with the trach who, you take them off the vent and they deset immediately. Logan has those moments, but Logan also has been off the vent for an hour at a time, or 30 minutes at a time, or when I'm doing his trach care. So he can remember to breathe some, but not enough to sustain his breathing throughout the day. And that is actually something that we are working on and working towards, is him being off the vent for a certain amount of time. Just because that's something that we want for him. So we have to put in the work of essentially retraining his brain to remember how to breathe at a safe pace that is recommended by his pulmonologist. So we actually had started sprints with him a while back. And then that's the thing about having a trach or having a child with respiratory issues, is that the smallest thing, a cold for me, just kind of resets his whole thing. And so we have to start over. So anytime he gets sick or he has respiratory issues going on, then it's almost like starting over every time. So that is why he has his trach. Like I said, let me backtrack. So he was initially intubated, which is a breathing tube through his mouth. And so he's intubated for months. And we did do trials off the vent for him when he was little, even in the hospital where he was extubated. He had 3 extubations. The second one, he was off for about 7 hours before he started having secretion buildup. So he's breathing on his own before his trach for 7 hours, which is why I am now confident that he can still do that. It's just a matter of retraining his body to know how to breathe on his own. So essentially, for him to be able to leave the hospital and come home with us, he needed a trach. And so that's chronic respiratory failure, is why he has a trach and a vent. So yeah. So the final diagnoses that we're going to talk about, I have actually a video that I'll link it in the description box, or either in the video somewhere, is epilepsy. So Logan's epilepsy diagnosis is one of the main things that we're trying to manage. So his CP, right, we're managing with a few medications, not a lot, that help him with spasticity, which is the tightness of his muscles. And we do a lot of range of motion exercises and positioning exercises. That's essentially how we manage his cerebral palsy. His brain injury, there's really no managing that. He did have neurostorming from his brain injury, so he was on a few medications for neurostorming, but he has not had many neurostorming episodes. I can't remember the last time he had one. So that's essentially managed. So we're basically managing the things that happened as a result of his brain injury, which is the cerebral palsy, the chronic respiratory failure, and the epilepsy. So if you don't know, epilepsy is a seizure disorder. So when Logan was in the hospital, he was having non-clinical seizures, which means he was having seizures. They were recorded on the EEG, but we could not see them. So we got those under control. And then after we came home, we had those under control. He started having infantile spasms, which I personally think had a tremendous effect on his brain. And so we worked really hard to manage those and get those under control with his doctors. And it was rough. It was a rough go at it for a while. So now that we have those under control, his infantile spasms, he is now having, his seizures now are clonic seizures, which we see them, but they don't affect his brain in the way that the infantile spasms did. So we're managing those seizures with the keto diet and medications, and we are coming a long way. I would say we are definitely better than we were, and so the goal is to just keep course with keto, you know, take out medications we don't think are working, try some different medications, but those essentially are the diagnoses that, I mean, he has a list of diagnoses. I used to be very concerned with, like, oh my God, they added this to his list of diagnoses. I'm not. Those are I'm not in that place anymore. Thankfully, I am his mama first. So, of course, you know, I want to make sure that he's okay medically because that's important. But I'm his mama. Like, we don't have to do PT today. You know? So those are the conditions that he's been diagnosed with. HIE, cerebral palsy, chronic respiratory failure, and epilepsy are the diagnoses that we work hard to manage and keep under control so that Logan can have the best quality of life that we're able to give him while he's back here sleeping away because he didn't go to sleep last night. So yeah, I don't know what the next video is going to be about, but I wanted to give you guys a rundown on why Logan even has a trach event and all the things that you saw in his trach video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you're subscribed. Also, I'm going to link Logan's story in the description box. If you guys are new here or you just really you don't know what happened, I'm not going to go over it again. But if you want to find out more information, I'm going to link that in the description box as well. So thank you guys for watching. I cannot wait to give you guys some more educational info. If you have any questions or anything that you want to know, just comment, drop the comments, let me know, and so then I'll be able to share that information with you guys. So thank y'all for watching. Thank you for supporting our family, and y'all have a great weekend.